welcome once again Hugo Vliegen, our Senior Vice President of Product Management. Hugo, welcome again.
Thank you.
As I told you last time, I always learn something new when I sit down and chat with you. So I just had a quick chat with David, our VP of Marketing, around DefyConvention, the brand theme, the marketing campaign, and what it means from a marketing perspective. So now what I would like to know and learn from you again, how do you relate that to products, to services?
Things have to change dramatically, right? So if you think about customer pain points, more agile, network and security come together, make it very serviceable, deal with the complexity. The old systems, the old approaches don't work anymore. If I think about the various principles we are having in mind within Aryaka for developing Unified SASE, then obviously there's an element of user experience, right? So if you think about users can live anywhere, they can be in a branch, they can be at home, workloads can work everywhere, so that user experience need to be deterministic, right? So otherwise you get too many support issues and you have to try to triage all these issues. It's very complex.
Right.
If you go more into the security space, right, because we are talking about how networking and security come together, then obviously there is an element of zero trust. If you think about zero trust, is that one element is that you have to control the session between the user and the workload all the time. If you would have separate SD-WAN solutions and separate security solutions with different management and different control planes, then I'm not sure how you can guarantee that you're always in control of the session. So that's a very important principle for design.
So kind of two principles already. So just maybe to allow our audience to understand, how many principles are we going to talk about?
Well, I have 5.
All right. So 3 more to go. Let's go through them one by one.
Okay. Another element is that enforcement, whether it's network enforcement or security enforcement, it should be as close to the user or to the workload as possible, right? So obviously, if you have somebody working from home, the enforcement will be in the cloud, right? And the same for if you have a SaaS application, the enforcement will be in the cloud. Now, if you have workers on-prem or workloads in a DC, right? There's still workloads in a DC.
Right.
Then if you put enforcement in the cloud, you get all kind of issues, right? So because now you have to latency issues, you get complexity issues, you start using more bandwidth than you needed. So how do you bring that enforcement on-prem as well, right? But then you are dealing with the fact that, as my principle number 3, so if you say, well, I should be able to put my enforcement on-prem or in the cloud, wherever I want it. Now you have the issue of how do you manage your central policies? You're not only trying to figure out how can you have central policy management for network and security together, because that drives efficiency, but the other pieces as well. Well, if those enforcement points can live anywhere, so do I have a set of technologies where I can actually, it doesn't matter anymore where it lives.
So I think the key aspect here is, even though there's clear tendency and a clear trend towards everything cloud and cloudify everything, there are still workloads, there are still applications that will remain on-prem in a data center. You still have then to enforce security and network policy for that workload as well. It's a hybrid environment. How you manage a hybrid environment is a whole different ballgame, to speak of. So enforcement policy, enforcement in general, for that hybrid distributed environment is a key principle.
That's correct. I think the key word here is distributed. So we have 3 principles: control of the session. We have to put the enforcement as close to the user or the workload as possible. 3, you have to have that single pane of glass, right? Or that's actually an overloaded term in my view. It's single central management where you can bring all these things together. The 4th point is about single pass. And single pass, in the end of the day, is about efficiency, how much compute you need, right? If you don't do it well, you have multiple compute processing engines for different pieces of it, where you do things twice, right? So you decrypt it, you encrypt it, and for another process, you decrypt it and encrypt it again. Or deep packet inspection for trying to classify which app is it, right? Or which user it is. So if you do it multiple times, it's not only costly, but as well, you introduce latency. And single pass is nothing new in the industry, right? So if you take a firewall vendor or you take a networking, routing vendor, within those systems, those boxes, they will have single pass. That's obvious, right? Now, the trick is, since we are converging, we are basically throwing all these processes in the air, right? We're saying that networking, security, and man optimization and other processes, they need to be linked together, right? So if you link them together, then industries have to rethink how they do single pass.
Right.
And if you are coming from a firewall world or routing world, then it's very complex to take all these existing software stacks and rearrange them, right? So that's a principle for Aryaka. The other principle is that if services can live in the cloud, right, or services can live on-prem, then you actually have to think through how do you establish a single pass between on-prem and cloud. For example, if I do deep packet inspection, which is an expensive process in order to figure out what is the app, what is the flow, then I don't want to do it again if I reach the cloud or I reach on-prem.
You want to do it once.
You want to do it once. So it's not only like single pass within the box or single pass within the software stack. You have to think between as well locations of where those processes are happening and you link them together.
Okay, so that's 4. What's the 5th principle?
Oh, 5th. There is an element of openness. If you think about building these systems, there are control planes, data planes, and management planes, right? And that is actually software work, systems work to build things at scale. It doesn't matter a lot whether you're talking about security or networking or WAN optimization. The various processes, how you link them at a scalable way are actually very comparable. The hard part is that, especially in security, that a threat landscape is changing all the time, right? New threats come in. New people come in to find algorithms to figure out how to catch these threats further, how to document this. So there's a whole set of innovation happening outside of established companies. A lot of these innovations come from many other companies, from startups. And so the trick is to have an open architecture where you can hook in those new algorithms, processes, detection mechanisms in your infrastructure without breaking your single management, cloud delivered, without, in terms of your data planes, not breaking the whole single pass architecture.
Right.
So that's a very key problem, because otherwise customers will still deal with too many vendors.
Right.
They still will deal with forklifts, and they have to deal with all of that complexity because it's a moving target.
Yeah. So it's 5 principles that you set out, kind of how we will go about deliver our products and our services. Openness is a key element as well. The trick is to combine that, to make it seamless, to make it user-friendly, and to do it with minimal friction as possible.
Yeah.
Let me switch gears a little bit. We're famous as an industry to introduce one hype and one buzzword after another. Latest ones are still certainly SASE and Zero Trust. Is that another wave of buzzwords, or do they actually mean something this time and actually solve real customer problems? What do you think?
No, Zero Trust is really an area which the industry has to take on. So there's always buzzwords in the industry. It's kind of the marketing problem to make people aware of new trends or new technologies, new solutions. But the thought process around Zero Trust is real. So the industry is trying to solve a real problem that you cannot trust anything anymore, right? So in the old days, you say the corporate network, is trusted. So I have a firewall somewhere centrally to police the inside and the outside of that world. That world is over, right? It has to be, and it has to be very dynamic. And especially since all the deployment scenarios are starting to be built based on that users can be everywhere. That's another reason why that whole Zero Trust movement is coming in. The other element is not a product, right? Zero Trust is not a product at all. It's a set of principles, right? And these principles, they are set, and different vendors, they will have different implementation, ways, right? In order to implement Zero Trust.
Very good.
Yeah.
So in this time, actually, the buzzword has some legs, if you will. It will stick around. Because it actually solves a real customer problem.
Yeah.
AWS, Azure, the whole cloud compute, storage as a service, pay-as-you-go, pay-as-you-grow model as well. Equally took some time, and it took some risk takers to adopt that model, to moving from on-prem to the cloud. Networking has always been the laggard, maybe because it's the most complex one.
So one is the person who takes this on is somebody who wants to take risks, right? Who is transformational. doesn't want to kick the can down the road, because networking and now security and networking together, it's very complex. It's plumbing. If it works well, nobody will talk about it.
Right.
If it fails, then you are, as a CIO, you are in trouble. So there's a tendency to kick the can down the road. Now, I think the time is ready to adopt modern approaches, right? And if you think about the outside risk, and we have seen a lot of that, it's not going to stop. The key word is, do you have a network infrastructure, security infrastructure, which allows you as an organization to pivot?
Thank you so much again. That was the double-header edition of the Aryaka Chat. Till next time.